This video reads, the internet is dragging the baby again. Yeah, tattoo what looks like it says music on it. It's like right on top of his eyebrow.
Now, DaBaby is currently on the receiving end of some backlash due to a music video he dropped yesterday. I want to have a little conversation about the backlash and what's actually going on. Now, for all my people who've been tuned into all the uploads, you guys know that yesterday I dropped a video on the young woman in Charlotte, North Carolina, who lost her life in that stabbing. Very horrible situation. That story honestly shook me to my core, and I just feel so bad about it because it could have all been prevented had the perpetrator...
I'm gonna actually watch that probably right after this because I was planning on watching that too.
Been dealt with by the system. Now, DaBaby actually ended up dropping a tribute to that young woman yesterday in a music video that he put out. Now, really quickly, DaBaby is of course a rapper who was very popular a few years ago. I'm sure most people have at least seen his face or name or heard one of his songs. He's actually from Charlotte himself, where this tragedy unfortunately happened. Now, yesterday he hopped on social media and he promoted this music video he dropped called Save Me. The music video, which starts off with showing off the surveillance footage of the death of Iryna Zarutska, has been getting a lot of backlash.
You know what? Scratch that. I'm gonna watch that right now. Hold on. So this is the video right here. The system failed her of Iryna I'm not gonna say. I was gonna say it, but like I don't want to be wrong and say their name wrong.
A horrific murder on a light rail train in North Carolina caught on camera. Now local officials are facing tough questions about why the suspect was still on the street.
In the seat behind her is 34-year-old DeCarlos Brown. Watch as he slowly opens a pocket knife, then stands and without warning plunges the knife into his victim.
And this wasn't some random man with no past. He had 14 prior arrests before this attack ever happened. And somehow he was still free until the day he crossed paths with that young woman on that train.
This beautiful face and seeing her balled up, looking around, not realizing somebody had attacked her, that was so horrible.
Now I want to talk about the story of 23-year-old Ukrainian refugee Iryna Zarutska, who tragically lost her life in Charlotte, North Carolina. It's a heartbreaking case that's made headlines for many reasons, but the biggest one is how it exposes just how flawed the system really is. Iryna Zarutska was a beautiful young Ukrainian woman, just 23 years old. Loved by many, she had a warm, creative spirit that she poured into the people around her. She studied art and restoration in Kiev.
Right now at Moorhead Motor Company, we're giving up to $4,000 more for your trade. That's right, $4,000 more.
Ukraine, the capital of the country, and her family described her as radiant with a smile that could light up a room. In August 2022, 6 months after Russia's invasion, she left Ukraine with her mother, sister, and brother, searching for safety and a future. That's how she ended up in North Carolina, where she began building a new life. She enrolled at community college with dreams of becoming a veterinary assistant. In the meantime, she often cared for neighbors' pets, walking them around the neighborhood, always smiling, always spreading light. She worked in Charlotte's South End and was slowly moving towards independence, even learning how to drive. But for now, she still relied on public transportation to get around. And it was there on a train where the story takes a tragic ending. On the night of August 22nd, roughly 3 weeks ago, Iryna boarded the Blue Line train in Charlotte after finishing her shift at a local pizza spot. She wore khaki pants, a dark shirt, and had her blonde hair tucked under her work cap. She sat down, focused on her phone like so many of us do. What she didn't, however, know was that the man sitting right behind her should have never been there in the first place. That man was 34-year-old DeCarlos Brown. For a few minutes, nothing happened. He sat there behind her, silent, staring out the window. Then in one quick, unprovoked motion, he pulled out a pocket knife, stood up, and swung over the seat. Iryna clutched her throat and face, not even realizing that her life had just been cut short. Within seconds, she collapsed to the ground and died. 34-year-old DeCarlos Brown was arrested minutes later and charged with first-degree murder. But this wasn't some random man out of nowhere. His criminal history stretched back nearly 2 decades, and court records show that his first arrest was in
So this man just randomly shanked a woman and killed her for no reason?
2007, and over the years he racked up over 14 arrests,
Dang.
including armed robbery, felony larceny, and breaking and entering. And in 2014 he robbed a man at gunpoint and served more than 5 years in prison. And after his release, things only spiraled, and by 2022 he was assaulting his own sister. But she dropped the charges out of concern for his mental health, and in 2024 and 2025 he was arrested multiple times for misusing 911 calls. During one arrest, he told officers he believed a man-made material was controlling when he ate, walked, and talked. And just 3 weeks before Iryna's death, a judge ordered a forensic evaluation, but still, this guy was still free to board that train and free to take that young woman's life. Even his own family had raised alarms, and his mother actually said that she tried to have him placed in a long-term psychiatric facility, but legally she couldn't really do much because she wasn't his guardian. His sister Tracy described how after he came home in 2020, he wasn't the same person anymore. He struggled to hold conversations, couldn't keep a job, and was often violent. And then, like we stated, in 2022, he even attacked his own flesh and blood. And his sister said that he often believed that the government had planted a chip inside of him. And the worst part about this is that after the stabbing, this man told his sister that he attacked Iryna because she was reading his mind. So obviously this man was not right in the head. He should have never been on that train. He should have either been in prison or inside out facility actually getting professional help. But then again, it makes you wonder, does rehabilitation even work for people like this? I'm not so sure, honestly. I would like to think that everybody can be helped, but the reality is that some people are just so far gone to the point where they can't be saved. Now, when he was arrested for misusing 911 earlier this year, instead of being held, Magistrate Judge Teresa Stokes let him go on a simple promise to come back to court. Like, we're talking no bail, no supervision, nothing. After the stabbing, her decision was blasted as a failure to protect the public, and the judge has faced serious scrutiny, like she should. But according to the Charlotte Observer, she was actually following North Carolina's law and their bail policy, which makes release without bond routine for non-violent misdemeanors. But the strange part is that, while the charges he faced at the time were considered non-violent, his record clearly showed a violent past. And that has me questioning, and probably you questioning, what's even the point of these so-called laws if they don't actually protect the public? Very good question. Now, this story, along with the Charlie Kirk assassination, have been two of the most spoken about tragedies in the last week. Obviously, the public is furious about the death of this young woman, and I think there's something to be said about why stories like this seem to be happening more often and often. Because even though we have a justice system, you start to wonder, how well is it actually working? And why do we keep hearing about innocent people getting killed by people who should have already been locked up in the first place?
That's the thing, bro. It's been going on for so long, and it's like, it's happening for no reason. I don't know the intention of people, but it seems like it's been going on for so long, and they're just doing it for no reason. We need to hold people accountable, and that's how this world is designed, for people to live in fear, to keep quiet and numb themselves, so that way nothing happens to them or something doesn't cause them to get into certain trouble with the law. Some of these laws are not even appointed or portrayed in society in general. Nobody follows it. It's either they make up a new law, it never gets followed, or they make a law and then they either break it or just misguide it or misuse this law that's being appointed. It's unorganized. It's really unorganized.
Always feel like criminals and this is something that's kind of like in my head, right? Which is, why does it always feel like criminals get protected while the public gets left vulnerable? Now, in this case, Brown was clearly mentally ill, and I think that's something that's kind of like in my head, right? Which is, why does it always feel like criminals get protected while the public gets left vulnerable? Now, in this case, Brown was clearly mentally ill, and I think that's important to stress, because part of why he was the way he wasn't entirely his fault. But at the same time, the system knew he had these issues, and instead of getting him real help, they just let him walk free. But I've also seen way too much sympathy for this killer. Some people talk like he had no control over what happened, and that's just not really true, okay? Because there's plenty of people dealing with the same exact mental issues, even in worse situations, and they're not out here stabbing innocent people on trains. That's a fact. We also can't ignore his past. This man wasn't just battling schizophrenia. This was someone with a long record of violent crimes. So yes, mental illness played a role, but, this wasn't some random accident. It was years of violence, ignored red flags, and a system that failed to keep the public safe. But most importantly of all, this young woman. And I also want to stress this. I don't think this story should be turned into some black versus white narrative, because at the end of the day, this was another evil man taking the life of an innocent young woman. That's what matters here. So instead of getting caught up in labels, let's focus on how tragedies like this can actually be prevented. That means asking why violent offenders and people with a clear mental health crisis keep slipping through the cracks, why judges, laws, and policies are protecting the wrong people, and why it always takes an innocent life being lost before anyone starts paying attention. Another conversation that needs to be had is why it took so long for mainstream media to cover this story. So this happened on August 22nd, this unfortunate tragedy, but the story didn't really blow up until like around 2 weeks ago. I remember hearing about it on August 25th, around 72 hours after that happened, and I was shocked to see how few outlets were covering it at the time. It felt like the story was being suppressed. And I think there's one major reason for that, one I haven't really seen too many people touch on. So Iryna wasn't a white American woman, she was a Ukrainian refugee, and in the eyes of the media, that doesn't grab the same level of sympathy or attention, or so they thought. I mean, we've seen the stories and the patterns before, right? The truth is, the stories that blow up involving women getting hurt in some type of way are usually about white American women. And I want you to take a look at the differences between the massive Gabby Petito case or even Shanquelle Robinson. These are two stories that eventually blew up, but at the same time, it proves that media coverage isn't about justice, it's about what they can package and sell. Now in this case, they had no choice but to cover it once the video spread, which is why in the past few days, this story has been everywhere, right alongside the death of Charlie Kirk. It's crazy to think that this woman fled a war-torn Ukraine looking for safety, only to end up losing her life on the train in the very country she thought would be safer. America's not really safe though, I think we all can agree. If you can't even get on public transportation without wondering if something might happen to you, what kind of life is that? And the truth is, women already know this feeling all too well. Walking home after a night out, riding a bus, even just existing in public, there's always that thought in the back of your head, in the back of a woman's head, which is, what if something happens to me? Between the
happened for no reason. No reason. Can't even go outside. Like, without having to watch your back.
The random acts of violence, school shootings, and the crime that pops up in every major city, safety in America is just not guaranteed. It's honestly a luxury. You can really see it in the contrast in places like Europe. Like a few days ago, I came home from Berlin and I was walking around at 4 in the morning by myself, not a care in the world, headphones on, just chilling. And I even saw groups of women walking alone, even women by themselves just walking alone in the city. Not once did I feel unsafe. Let's just say try doing that in most major American cities and you'd be looking over your shoulder every 2 seconds, right? Honestly, I tried that in LA one time and I seen a Dodge Durango driving real slow and I thought that was my time to go, okay? So we ain't doing that again, okay? That was a mistake. But all, jokes aside, right? Like this story is really messed up, honestly. Like it really messed me up, especially seeing that video of the young woman, Iryna, covering her face, like not even realizing that that was the last moment she'd be alive. Like it was horrible to see that video. I don't ever want to see that shit again. Yo, we have to stop letting criminals walk free when so many lives are being destroyed because of it. And the truth is, the system hasn't just failed once. It's failed over and over again at every level, from the judges to the lawmakers to the policies that prioritize technicalities over public safety. Like it needs to stop. The people who let this man out need to be held accountable as well, because when you ignore violent pasts, when you dismiss red flags, when you put procedure over protecting innocent lives, this is the result. A young woman who fled a war-torn country ends up dying on a train in America because of decisions that should have never been made. And honestly, the system that let him walk free is just as guilty as he is. We need people in power to step up and finally do the right thing, which is keep dangerous criminals where they need to be. Because if not, this cycle will keep repeating itself. More innocent lives, especially women and children, will keep on losing their lives. Families will be shattered, all because of the system that chose to protect the wrong people. To anyone listening, can I ask you a question? Like, what can be done about things like this? Because the way I look at it is the only solution is be harsher on violent criminals. But maybe there's something that I'm missing, and of course, like I'm open to hearing what you have to say. So please let me know in the comment section below. I would really appreciate it.
Hey, to tell you, big bro, to tell you this, or to say this to the people. a lot of things can be done. Nothing has changed. They might have laws, but they continue to like not follow the procedures of those laws, and it's just like it gets delayed. It doesn't make any sense. Because we do have presidents, we do have Democrats, Republicans, we do have lawmakers, we do have police, we have sheriffs, cops, lawyers. There's a lot of things that could be done. Real talk. Rest in peace to her, and my condolences go out to her family. And I live in North Carolina, but I live in a small town. The fact that this happened in Charlotte, which is literally like a couple hours away from me, probably like 3 or 4 hours away from me. I pray for each and every person to to stay safe, because it's ridiculous how you have to literally like be concerned about what could happen to you. Like something could happen to you, you might not even be here the next day. It's like you always have to be cautious. It's just really, really, really confusing.